All right, good afternoon, folks. We are going to let everyone into the webinar this afternoon. We have a large attendance list, so we'll just give folks another minute and we'll get started at 2:02. We have a lot of content we're covering today. Wonderful. This is so exciting. We have a bunch of folks on today's call. We'll give folks just another few seconds to log in and then we'll get started. This webinar is being recorded today, so you will be able to reference the recording in our archive. My name is Abby Getman-Skillicorn. I'm the Special Projects Manager for Massachusetts Farm to School, and I'm delighted to be here today with all of you to talk more about hydroponics in the cafeteria. And for those of you who are not familiar with us, Mass Farm to School works as a statewide nonprofit to strengthen local farms and fisheries and promote communities, and promote healthy communities by increasing local food purchasing and education in schools. And so in our work, we provide professional learning opportunities like today's webinar. We have our conference that's happening at the end of March, which I'll have some more information about later in today's presentation. We also provide networking opportunities. We work on policy and advocacy initiatives as it relates to farm to school efforts around the state and country. And we also do a lot of communications efforts, including our Harvest of the Month program, which you see some posters about both on the screen and behind Danielle in her kitchen office at Dr. Perkins School. So I'm delighted to introduce our presenters today. We have Sam Malesa he's the Regional Director of Partnership Programs, Partnership Development at New England Fork Farms, and Danielle Sprague, who is the Chef and Food Service Director for Dr. Franklin Perkins School in Lancaster, Massachusetts. So Sam, do you want to provide yourself another little intro and then we can pass it to Danielle?
Yeah, sure. Not much to add. I work with all of our New England partners at Fork Farms. We're a small company out of the Midwest. I live in Concord, New Hampshire, so not super far from where most of you are probably located. And I'm excited to be talking to you all today. So thanks for putting this together, Abby, and the rest of the Mass Farm to School folks.
Thanks, Sam. And Danielle, love to have you introduce yourself to the attendees today as well.
Sure. Thank you, Abby. And I just wanted to say thank you for asking me to be a part of today's webinar on hydroponics in the cafeteria. I'm really grateful to share my experience. It's been very positive and it's been a lot more approachable than I ever imagined. So I am thrilled to walk folks through my experience today, and hopefully they will find some value in it and identify with it and get excited and inspired. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't want to assume everybody knows what hydroponics means. So hydroponics is a type of horticulture and a subset of hydroculture, which involves growing plants, usually crops or medicinal plants, without soil by using water-based mineral nutrient solutions. It's also known as aquaculture or tank farming. So for my school and I, our hydroponics experience began with an email from Sam dated back on September 1st of 2022. And it was a very simple introduction email about Fork Farms and what they do and how a flex farm might benefit my school. So I absolutely was interested because my background is in culinary arts, and prior to coming to school here at Dr. Franklin Perkins School, I was a chef for about a decade at a local farm to fork restaurant. And so interest in hydroponic growing of produce was already there. This email, kind of re-sparked that. But at the time, my budget did not really include this opportunity. So I set it aside, kept the email, hoping that at some point I would be able to refer back to it and, get the ball rolling on a potential opportunity for hydroponic growing in my school cafeteria. At some point last December or December of 2023, I was made aware of the Massachusetts Fresh Grant opportunity, and I thought it was an amazing opportunity to put a grant plan together and form my project called Perkins, Planting the Seeds for Fresh Growth. I thought I would include a number of initiatives from, incorporating raised beds to making upgrades to our school garden to the implementation of a pumpkin patch. We had our first farm to fork dinner for the students. We formed more local farm partnerships, and I, of course, included the Fork Farms opportunity for a flex farm here in our school cafeteria. So off my grant proposal went, and I found out in January that our project was green lighted. We received a outstanding amount of funding for the project, and that gave me the green light to begin my partnership with Sam and Fork Farms. Abby, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll continue the story.
And I'll just note, if folks have questions, throw them into the Q&A function. We'll get to them at the end of today's presentation. And just for any folks who are joining us a little bit late in today's presentation, yes, it is being recorded and it will be available to watch later after today's presentation. Sorry. Thanks, Danielle.
No problem. So the grant was awarded, and I reached out to Sam. Sam traveled out to my school here in Lancaster, and we had an excellent meeting. I showed Sam where I was looking to put the flex farm in our cafeteria. I asked a lot of questions, mainly questions about how does it work? How much time per week should I be dedicating to it? What amount of produce should I expect this to yield? What's our growth cycle? Some basic questions is, how do I assemble it? How do I plug it in? To what seeds do you offer? What's the variety? And how often should I expect to be harvesting? One of the things, I was very, I don't want to say naive, but it was very new to me. I purchase hydroponically grown lettuce for myself, when I go to the grocery store, but to actually operate the growth system was something I was not familiar with. So one of the silly questions I asked Sam was, do I need to put this by a window so it gets sunshine? And he replied and said, no, the light that comes with your system is the source of sunshine for your seeds. So, it's very approachable. At first, when something is new, you find that it's a lot more challenging than the, fourth, fifth, sixth time you go to do it. But my next steps after meeting with Sam was to form a flex farm team internally here at my school. So I was able to recruit a couple of educators, teachers who work with our students in culinary arts. Our IT director was very interested, and he became a team member. The head of our maintenance department, I had included him in my original meeting with Sam to utilize his knowledge about where should I be plugging this in, so I'm not blowing fuses, what makes sense for logistics. So the team I formed wasn't necessarily my food service team, although there were people on my staff who absolutely were as enthusiastic and excited by the project in addition to me. But I found that my team was not just food service stakeholders, but people from the Dr. Franklin Perkins School community who were interested. And I really liked that a lot, to have some diversity in our group and to harness that excitement, no matter where it was coming from in our community, to the point where I had bought each of us Fork Farms t-shirts, that everybody wears, to work, and just to really get the excitement off the ground and brainstorming with teachers to see how we can train and offer the students an opportunity to learn and harvest, sample, and so forth. So that's kind of where we started. Real basic, and you can see on the slide, it's the arrival of the Flex Farm. So here in these photos, you can see the location and setup of how my Flex Farm works. It is in the corner of the school cafeteria. There's a table laid out that contains all of the relevant information we need to plant seeds, to transplant seeds into our Flex Farm, to harvest. There is, if I can back up a little, once the farm arrived, we picked our location, we began to assemble, and the assembly itself was very easy to follow with the instructional videos provided and all of the promotional and operational materials that Fork Farms provides. Very approachable, easy to understand. And any questions we had, Sam was available, as well as their support group called Farmative. So picking our location, assembling our Fork Farm, reading the grow guide, making sure that we understood what our first steps were, what our test kit looked like, what other materials we should have. For example, I have a rug underneath our Flex Farm to catch any water. We are not experiencing any issues with pests or insects, which is great. That was a concern, but we have not had any of those issues. So beginning, as you can see in the photos, there is a tray where we plant our seeds. We have labeled water spray bottles, paper towels, gloves. We have clipboards where we track any and all actions that we take with the Flex Farm, whether it's planting, harvesting, testing the pH in the water levels, adding nutrients, or adding maybe a little bit of hydrogen peroxide if we experience algae. But every note is very visible for any of the people on our Flex Farm team to read and reference. And we do that with every growth cycle. I have some signage there. So if students and or teachers are interested in what this is and finding out more information, it's all very visible, very available. It's very eye-catching. We have about 3 to 5 prospective student tours a week. And one of the absolute must-sees when our admissions group is walking these students around is this area of the cafeteria. It's become very eye-catching. It's become a focal point, not just for students, but for teachers and for prospective students, our administration. Walking into the cafeteria, it's definitely something that catches your eye. So we take notes, I take pictures of the different growth cycles. I contact Farmative whenever I have any questions, when I want to reorder. They are, again, always available, very supportive. And the training of students and staff to have them participate. They can walk right up to our Flex Farm in the cafeteria while they're at lunch, and with supervision, take leaves off or whatever it is that we're growing and taste right then and there. And the idea that the harvest is literally steps away from our kitchen, which will take that harvest and transform it into that day or the next day's entree salads, side salads, or dinner salads, is incredibly exciting. I'm really proud of it. And it's very simple. It's very simple to the process. So having students come in and teaching them how to harvest their own lettuce in their cafeteria has been, we've received wonderful feedback from the students and the teachers. They're excited to be engaged, and it's been good for me to train and delegate some of the workload of it off to share with others. So I am not the only one who operates the farm and who understands how it works. Sometimes when something is new, or if you don't put that time in your schedule to train and educate others and delegate. You just end up doing it all yourself. Where with this, it's really important to share the information, to share the responsibility, to work with the people on your team, to harvest as often as possible. And now that we've gone a few rounds and gotten familiar, we've made some mistakes, we've tried to correct them, we've track all of our learnings and try and implement that information into each round. But it's a lot easier, it's a lot more efficient. We've learned so much. Now, what I've been planting, now we're starting to get a little more diverse. We began with pretty much just lettuce, just really trying to understand how to successfully grow lettuce. Now we've grown lettuce, we've grown basil, we have tatsoi and spring rob going. We have more types of lettuce growing. We have thyme growing. So as you can see, the gentleman on the left, he is our director of IT. He's got his t-shirt on. He's very excited to be a part of this. When I take a vacation, I know there's going to be coverage from other people in my group, some people on my staff, but others in our education department. And you can see with some of these pictures, the progression of, a seedling to, the beginnings of a head of lettuce to harvest. And it's comes out clean. The shelf life of the lettuce is significant, I would say, and we pretty much turn it around within 48 hours. But the shelf life is definitely of high quality. It's definitely, I've been impressed by it. The cleanliness of the Flex Farm, again, impressive. We take care of it with a deep clean every few turns, take it apart, clean it effectively, and put it back together, and off we go again. In the meantime, while you're cleaning it, you can be planting seeds. It's really becomes a full cycle where you are always harvesting, planting, growing to really maximize the potential of the farm. So as far as my decision and how I went about getting the Flex Farm into the school, I've been so pleased with it. I will say that when it first went into our cafeteria, alarming number of education staff asked me if it was a tanning bed, which was a little shocking. But no, it was not a tanning bed. So, I mean, on the bright side of that, at least, it had gotten some interest and some buzz around it. So I was able to explain and educate as to what it was. When we hosted our first couple farm to table dinners in our cafeteria, again, it was able to be seen by our residential staff. My school does have residents. We don't have just day students. So to be able to bring those residents in the evening and host them for dinner in the cafeteria, serving them local food from a number of farms that are literally within 5 miles of our campus, and to turn to them and say, and your salad tonight came from this farm, 5 feet away from you. It's very impactful. It's quite an important statement to me for local food, and exciting. As you can see on the left, we use it in things as simple as a tuna salad. On the right, one day a month, we do an international lunch day. On this day, we went to Vietnam. So we were able to take the lettuce grown in the Flex Farm and use that in our Vietnamese culture, salad that day. You can see there's staff who are excited about it. They're just giving it a little rinse with equipment paid for by the Mass Fresh Grant, and getting it right into salads, right into containers, and having it ready to go for when the students come in. So I just have my one school, but as you can see from what our estimated daily consumption is, it's a lot of lettuce. It's a lot of types of lettuce, and the Flex Farm has really made an impact on how the students view salads, the amount of lettuce I'm purchasing on a monthly basis. It's very eye-catching, like I said, for people who walk into our cafeteria. My manager works on another part of campus, and when he comes into the cafeteria, he still is impressed with what we do with that. And I was very fortunate to have that all made possible by Massachusetts Fresh Grant funding. But as far as pros and cons, the only con I can think of is the tanning bed comment, which in turn, it just turned it into, enthusiasm and an opportunity to educate. There isn't as much overall enthusiasm with my direct staff as I would have liked. However, I do have an amazing team of internal staff here at Perkins who want to be a part of that. So those who want to be a part of that, I am always welcoming new people onto our team and training. And again, with our t-shirts, it's just kind of a way to bring us together and harness that enthusiasm. The pros are continued success, feeling the connection with the food for staff and students. Again, growing your food steps away from where you're harvesting it and where you're eating it. I just really believe in that philosophy. So having the Flex Farm gives me that opportunity to really release my passion and have it be on the daily basis here. And, overall, the ongoing partnership with Sam and the staff at Fork Farms has been awesome. I definitely feel like I am supported. I definitely feel like I don't have silly questions. It's just this constant check-in. And I really hope that in the future, I'll be adding to our farm, perhaps a second or a third once I get more people engaged and find a way to get funding or put it into my budget. But it's definitely something I would do again. I'm so proud of it. And I'm really satisfied with it and happy that I have it in my school and I'm learning a lot. So thank you.
That's amazing, Danielle. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And I think you really spoke to the best practices around like assessing your location, in addition to like some of the, thinking through all the steps of when you establish your fork farm, having the cleaning sanitation log list, as far as like what folks are doing. And, I loved how you were talking about the importance of building the team and then being able to delegate so that it's not all on your shoulders, and
Absolutely.
that
And I
it's
think the more people that, you can involve who share your passion and want to learn, the better off you are, especially looking to the future too. If I were to, if I were to not be involved starting tomorrow, I would love to know that there are people that can pick up the ball and go with it. When I take a vacation or if I'm offsite at, a conference, I am confident that there are others that'll step in and keep the growing going.
awesome. And more to come. Again, if folks have questions, throw them in the Q&A function. We'll get to them towards the end. I can't help but give my own like amazing. This is awesome, Danielle. So thanks for kicking us off. And then Sam, you are next up. So can you take us through Fork Farms and your growing system that Danielle's successfully using in her school?
Yeah, Danielle did a pretty great job. So while there's a lot of slides of mine on here, I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. I just wanted to make sure that all you viewers had them after the presentation so you could see the information. You can always contact me if you want more, but I'm going to start out with a little bit about who we are as a company. We're a young company. We're a small company, not quite a startup anymore. We're having some success, so we're growing fast, but we really believe that food is a human right and that we can change the food system and that it needs to be changed. So our way to do that is to place these flex farm systems anywhere we can. Obviously, we're talking about K through 12, more specifically food service here. That's kind of my bread and butter. But we have them at hospitals, hunger relief operations, food banks, and things like that. We have them at post-secondary education institutions and all sorts of different places across the country and the world, actually. Again, for food service is close to my heart. My mom was a food service director for 26 years at a public district when I was growing up. So she's actually on our team now. She's effectively my boss. So Fork Farms has a deep bench of people that really care about this stuff, and they can help you make your vision come true. Whether it's one system like Danielle has, or a larger goal, you're trying to grow all of your greens, or you're trying to go in any direction, or maybe it's a classroom placement. That's what we're here to do. And we think that everyone's already a farmer. We just need to help them kind of empower themselves and unleash fresh greens for everybody. So if you could go to the next slide, Abby. The way we do that, again, Danielle did a great job. There's the technology of the Flex Farm, the partnership usually via in-person, via me, for you folks. But there's technology involved as well. We have an app of Farmative. There's a website. Farmative is our back end, kind of our hub. It's a website that only our partners get access to. That's where a ton of these resources live. So you don't have to wait for someone to get back to you, although they don't wait long. But there's a K through 12 NGSS aligned curriculum there. There's a ton of growing videos that you can use to say, oh, how do I put this together? How do I harvest? How do I do things like that? And we'll get to Farmative a bit more later, but you'll never have to go without, you know, a question answered, and it won't be a situation where, you know, there'll be technology dumped on your lap and say, okay, good luck, hope it works out. That's just not what we do at Fork Farms, because if the technology isn't growing food for people, then we've failed at our mission of upending the food system and getting fresh food in the hands of people that need it. So you can go to the next slide, Abby. This is the Flex Farm. You've seen it just before in Danielle's presentation, but here's some stats. So the Flex Farm itself, it has 288 plant spaces, and it can grow 25 pounds of leafy greens, edible portion leafy greens, every 28 days. And we don't say this very often this directly, but I'll say it here. It is the most efficient pound for pound, watt for watt, and dollar for dollar hydroponic system out there right now by quite a wide margin. And that's all design. It's not an extremely complicated piece of technology. There's no Wi-Fi connectivity. There's no AI. There's no really difficult things to troubleshoot. It's a pump and it's a light. The reason why it's so much more efficient is the design of how you see it's laid out. Essentially, what we're doing is we're recycling light. So if you go back to the previous slide really quick, Abby, you'll see the one on the left, the empty Flex Farm. What you're seeing is it's cracked open on its back hinge, but it's cylindrical when it's closed. And we're encircling the light 360 degrees. When it's empty, that white is exposed, and when the plants are small, essentially that light is bouncing around in there, and that's allowing us to dial our wattage down really, really far. So we're able to grow more food for less energy, water, and so on than some other systems you might have seen. And it really becomes a fun conversation, especially in food service, when we're talking about actual applications. What is the cost? What is the per serving cost? You're actually serving food, which isn't the case in the classroom setting, which is something else we can talk about later in the presentation, but you can skip ahead again, one more. So here's kind of the greatest hits, if you will. Danielle and her team are really, really involved in her Flex Farm, and that's really awesome. We highly encourage it, getting more people involved. It just gains more support for you and more excitement and more people eating fresh food. But really, realistically, it only takes about 5 to 15, 20, 30 minutes if you want to do it that way, a week to just make sure your water is good, to make sure you have enough nutrient in there, and make sure everything's flowing like it should. Like I said, 25 pounds for about $1 per pound. 2 years is honestly a little long. If you were to grow on a 28-day grow cycle consistently, you'd have this paid off in less than a year and a half, just based on national averages for what it would cost to buy the greens that it can grow. So the ROI is also pretty attractive for actually getting that investment back. You can keep going, Abby. So this is a fun picture, and I mentioned my mom before. This is her least favorite picture in the world. She hates that I show it to everybody, but that's her in the green right there. Back when she was a food service director, before she came and led our team. That is all the greens you get from one Flex Farm. That was her first harvest ever. Excuse me. So it probably get bigger than that, as they learned, as Danielle can attest to. There's a little bit of, things you can kind of learn, the tips and the tricks and how to do things most efficiently. So I love showing the picture, but she probably wouldn't appreciate it. That's fine. She's not here. On the upper left, that is a farm up here in Concord, New Hampshire. That is a 6-unit Flex Connect, we call it. So you'll see those 6 individual Flex farms. They're connected with what we call our Flex Connect, and it's a central tube system, and it's run on one unified pump. So that brings your efficiency pound for pound even higher. And you do the math. This farm is capable of growing about 150 pounds a month, and it's doing it in what was really an old dry storage area that was underutilized. So I just wanted to show you guys a picture of that, and just let you know, whatever your vision is for your program, if you wanted to do individual Flex Farms and work with STEM coordinators or place them in classrooms, as some of the partners in Massachusetts have done that. That's a great model too, but they can also be connected, and you can grow and build whatever program you'd like, up to and including a pretty serious commercial lettuce farm, which I won't lie is a bit more of an undertaking, but it's possible, it's doable, and it's been done in the K through 12 setting. You can keep going, Abby. So here's a couple of the things that you can grow. It'll grow a lot more, but these are the things that we know work quite well. That 25 pounds every 28 days, that's specifically dark leafy greens of most varieties. You can grow romaine, crisp head, all those things there, including some really nice looking like red oak and Cherokee red, some really cool different varietals that can really make an attractive looking salad. But really any culinary herb can grow in there too. So when you talk about what basil costs to get in fresh or how much of it's slimy by the time it gets off the truck, right? You can really do some cool things there with elevating what you're serving, or just saving money if you're already spending the money to bring in those things. If you want to get wild with it, we've had people grow all sorts of stuff, including peppers, cucumbers, strawberries, some newer, more culturally relevant food we're able to grow, Swiss chard, cat soy, bok choy goes really well. I have some growing in mine in my basement right now, actually. And even some edible flowers like nasturtiums. You could grow lavender or other things if you want to do garnishes, have all been grown and do well on the Flex Farm. You can advance the slides, Abby. So here are some kind of just bullet point stats of what you're looking at. Like I said, 15, 20 minutes a week. You can do, you know, much shorter than that if you want to, but monthly, it's going to take you a little bit longer to harvest and plant. So about an hour. And once a year, at least, maybe twice, we recommend you deep clean, and that can take a little bit longer. There are dishwasher safe elements of the Flex Farm, so you won't have to sit there and scrub it with a toothbrush. But really, any food safe acid is plenty to get any grime you might have on there off. So our idea with this is to make this as easy as possible. When it comes to the growing cycle and when do I plant, when do I harvest, all that stuff, as Danielle mentioned, we have tons of support for that. And a lot of that does exist on Farmative. So that exists for not just you, but your entire team, your entire district has access to those resources. We don't gatekeep any of that, including the curriculum, because again, as Danielle said, the key to this is if you're thinking, okay, I couldn't possibly take this on right now. I just have too many things. Maybe I'm understaffed. Maybe, I just can't do it. We really try to give you all the tools that you need to recruit those people, because you shouldn't have to do all the work, whether it's your team or someone completely separate from the food service staff entirely. We want to give you and them the tools to make this as easy as possible and make it a lasting program. So there's a couple more things on there, but we can advance the slide again. And I want to address food safety since I'm talking to a lot of food folks. On the right, you'll see a copy of a letter back in 2018 that my mother got from her health inspector. So she was kind of the pioneer on this, got this approved, ready to go. But we have a long history of getting this done. If you're concerned with food safety, talk to me, ask me some questions. We have a playbook for this, and we've done this time and time again. But here are the basics. It's no different than buying something from a local farm, right? Your serve safe rules still apply. You have to wash it when it crosses the threshold of your kitchen, just as you would if it were grown outside. The Flex Farm itself is made from the same polymer that gallons of milk are made from, and it's all FDA approved materials, FDA food safe approved materials, fertilizers, and all that fun stuff. And if you're thinking, well, I couldn't put that in my cafeteria, some kid's going to destroy it or do something nasty to it. We find that there is a little bit of a moth to flame type of attraction to these things. Like Danielle said, it is a kind of a lettuce tanning bed, so it does draw some attention. But there's been nothing done to a Flex Farm that broke it or rendered the food inedible. Any attention is good at first. Obviously, there's a line there, but if you're struggling with things like that, again, there are ways to solve it. But we really recommend putting it in a visible space if you can, because engaging food, with the kids and kids with the food is the idea, and really can have lasting impacts on what your kids want to eat, and even your participation if you're serving salad or not. You can advance the slides, Abby. So here are another group of stats that I wanted to get through. So to break it down in food service language, it'll grow 300 half-cup servings in that 28 days. And it'll do it for, according to what I have solved, under 12 cents per serving. That's really cool considering it's essentially the same quality product as you'd buy from a place like Little Leaf. I know some of you are probably already buying that, or you've heard of it at least. It's great. This is the same growing method. It's a very comparable product. So, I'm not advocating for not buying from local farms. I'm kind of wondering, what could you do with that savings if you're already spending the money on that quality product, right? Could you get more local proteins? Could you get beets and other things that I can't grow in Flex Farm, right? You couldn't possibly do onions, but if you get those from a local farm, it opens the doors for more interesting relationships. The nutritional value of greens is tied to freshness, not necessarily growing methods. So we can get into the intricacies of organic versus non-organic, hydroponic versus the soil loyalists, as we call them. The reality is especially for leafy greens, the nutritional value is tied to how fresh it is. Obviously, not the case with all produce, but it doesn't get more local than grown on site. It's can be, less than 100 feet from where it's grown to the tray, and there's no beating that. As we've kind of discussed, the Flex Farm can grow you agency at your district. This is something that's also really important to me. Watching my mom, she was a Chartwell's operator, so she had two bosses, and she had to try to make both of them happy all the time, and they didn't always listen to her input, maybe when they should have, right? When she was the operator. So something like this can really bring you a bit more agency and give you a seat at the table, if you will, and allow you to take control of how your students interact with the food system and interact with fresh food. And that's my favorite part about forging these relationships and partnerships, because it really can bring attention to a program in a great way, and forge those collaborations with STEM coordinators, special education directors, and after school programs in a really cool way. And the link between the kitchen and the classroom it is more strong than it could have been before. And then there's also the marketing aspect, right? Like shouting out some of the great things Danielle's got. She's got her like wall of fame there and all the different things. I love that. I mean, it's a really cool way to just shout out what you're doing, how much you care about what you feed your kids, and what the kids think. And I have over 25 partners just in Massachusetts food service that will tell you about that if you ask them. So again, if you want to talk to one of those folks, you can reach out to me. You can go ahead and advance the slide, Abby. So when it comes to funding and ordering, this information's there. We can go over this quick. We accept POs, but we don't need them. It's very easy. You can reach out to me directly. I can help you with any part of this, whether it's one or you want to grow enough food for the whole county. Let me know. We'll figure out something. We've been funded directly out of budgets and district budgets, Title I funds, ESSER funds, all sorts of fun stuff. But obviously, we've forged a lot of relationships in the grant world too. Massachusetts Fresh is a huge opportunity for everyone here. USDA grants, including some big ones, UAIP grants. We've been granted a number of $200,000 plus grants. So if you're thinking big, don't let that discourage you. And we're 100% made in the United States within 100 miles of our headquarters in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So there's no supply chain issues there. And you can keep going. This is kind of our system I've gone over already. You can go one more, Abby. This is a little bit more about Farmative. So on Farmative, you'll find a few things. So the grower community, what we've built there is essentially like a Facebook feed. Everyone who has a Flex Farm or is on there, within whatever district, they can post, they can like, they can comment. You'll see a lot of pictures like this of kids engaging, a Southeast Asian stir fry day and pictures of that, or people ask questions. Hey, I'm having trouble with this. Has anyone tried sugar snap peas? Has anyone done this? So it's like Reddit meets Facebook a little bit, but it's just for Flex farmers. So it's really cool to be able to share your wins and ask questions. And our people are on there. Our support team and myself are on there. So if there's questions, they generally get answered really quick. And there are formal ways to contact somebody that works with us there. Again, that's where the learning resources are too. So that K through 12 curriculum, a nice carrot you can dangle in front of your STEM coordinator if you're wondering, hey, how am I possibly going to run this? Well, let's ask the science class and let's get those kids in here, and maybe you won't have to do any of the harvesting at all, and you'll just get a nice Cambro full of beautiful lettuce in your fridge once a month. We do have programs like that, and it works out really well. And then there's the store. So if you need anything supplies wise, it's right there and convenient for you to find. You can advance the slides. There's just a curriculum sample. So if you're curious about what that looks like, probably not for the folks on this call, but it does exist. It's very well done. It's very updated, and your educational team will know what some of these words mean, like NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards. It's very turnkey for them, so it's convenient to drop right in and start learning from it. And then one more slide, Abby. The partner support, we've kind of beat this one, but I'm here. I'm not that far. I'm in Concord, New Hampshire. Like I said, I'm happy to come and meet with any of you and talk with you and help you visualize where you could put it. If you're having issues, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to call me, or that you're just trying to do it at 11:30 at night when you finally have a moment to yourself. Again, all of that's on Farmative, and you can access it whenever you want via these short videos. But I really want to stress that we don't have customers, we have partners. This is an ongoing relationship, because otherwise we're not accomplishing our goal, which is feeding people. And then you can go to the last slide. This is just a cool quote I like to share from my friends in Carver. Teresa Vernazaro over there has been running Flex Farms for a while as well. And it just highlights, what can happen when you link that kitchen in the classroom, and what the Flex Farm can bring, not only just with feeding people, but having them think more largely about how they feed themselves, and forging lasting, responsible decisions with what these students choose to eat. And that's the end of what I'll give. I wanted to leave as much time for our questions as possible. So I hope there are some.
Great. Thank you, Sam. And we do have some questions. So we'll start getting to those. And again, folks, throw your questions in the Q&A function and we will get to them. Someone was curious about, basically, Danielle, did you have to add the food processing for your fork farm or into your school food license or your school food policy? So how are you handling? Yep.
I have not. We have had our Board of Health inspector here twice since the Flex Farm has been operational, and have not had any issues with that at all. No.
Thanks.
We have a good relationship with them, but I think if there was an issue, it would have been brought up, but no, smooth sailing so far.
Nice. And on Sam's end, it sounds like Fork Farms does have some standard operating procedures, including how to add it to your HACCP plan, as far as how to maybe harvest and wash your produce. Another question, can you tell us about the nutrients that get added to the water? Can it be organic? Sam.
Yeah, great question. So it gets a little sticky when you're talking about certified organic versus organic in practice. Hydroponics, there's actually a couple legal battles going on right now about can hydroponics be considered organic, and there's been some rulings that it can. I have no doubt that if you were to go to certify your flex farming operation as certified organic by the powers that be, you could get that certification. Problem is, it's expensive, and it's kind of a site-by-site thing, right? Because it's a farm. So unless you had some giant operation and you were growing tons of lettuce for either a huge school district or to sell or something like that, it's probably not prudent to do that. But the fertilizers themselves are chelated hydroponic fertilizers in industry standard materials that you'd find anywhere. It's not some proprietary blend that we've recreated the wheel on. In my opinion, it's kind of the best of both worlds, because even organic crops, when grown outside, are treated with pesticides and some other things. These are not, because, as Danielle said, there's no pests. So nutritionally, I think it's the best of both worlds, especially for dark leafy greens. Again, when you're talking other crops, there's different factors at play. So long walk for a short drink of water. It could be, but it's kind of a gray area, and there's some really interesting things if you were to Google it and get into this debate, that there's it's hotly debated in the industry, but it does qualify, and it's, to speak colloquially, just as good in my opinion.
Thanks, Sam. Another question is, what investment is needed for those who want to start? It sounds so. Is this fully funded and already free to those who want to start it? What investment is needed to those who want to start? So I think I can answer this question. This is a at least if you're planning to do hydroponic growing in your cafeteria with a fork farm system, it is a system that you would have to purchase. It is eligible for a variety of different grant funding opportunities, which Danielle spoke about. She utilized the Massachusetts Fresh grant to pay for her fork farm, and I know a number of other schools around the state have used state or federal funding to buy fork farm systems. And when you are considering, if you would purchase it utilizing grant funding or operational expenses out of your food service budget, I would also really encourage, like Danielle said, she pulled in her facilities team. We've heard of, challenges locating a plug in the most convenient area for the flex farm might not be an area that can handle electricity. You really need to scope out your location before necessarily like making a purchase, because you want to think through. I've been in a lot of buildings that were built in the 1800s that may or may not adding a new plug is not always the easiest versus finding a different location for that kind of growing system. So just want to make that comment there. But as far as for funding, Sam, understanding that you're working with a variety of districts that are procuring the fork farm system, is there anything else you wanted to add there?
Just one quick note on the location piece. The spot you need to pick, all it needs to have is power. There is no water line that goes to this. You don't need to get a plumber involved. Some people do because they want to add, a hand sink, or if they're kind of designating an area. But all it needs is 2 regular AC outlets like you'd plug your phone charger into. There's not a lot of draw from this. Again, it's a really efficient system. So if you need to relocate an outlet, it would just be like a regular outlet. They can pull power as if they would anywhere else. So it's as easy as it could be. But good point about where to put it. A lot of things come into play there, including foot traffic. In terms of funding it, it just depends. I know that there's a lot of like bidding and RFP kind of I don't want to say blockades, but there's these little pieces that, once you reach a certain amount that you have to get things cleared, and you have to go out to bid, or you have to get a sole source, or what have you. We've worked through all those barriers, including signing agreements with townships. Sometimes there's a town board or a school board that needs to be involved, and we've worked through all of those with our procurement folks, including myself. But again, it just depends on the size of the program you want to start and what it is you're looking to do.
So Sam, a follow-up question to that is, how much is a fork farms unit if you do not have a grant?
Yeah. So one flex farm is just under $5,000. It's $49.95 plus $150 shipping. And again, that comes with the formative access for you and your entire district. It also comes with everything you need, including like beakers, the testing kit, all that stuff, and 3 months of growing supplies. So right out of the box, you'll have the seeds, you'll have all of the things you need to start germinating. As soon as you put it together and start germinating, you could be growing and harvesting in about 5 weeks.
Thanks, Sam. Another follow-up question. Are there any restrictions on shipping? There is someone from Michigan here.
No, not at all. No, we are in just about every state in the union, Canada, and the 7 other countries, and we're headquartered in Green Bay, Wisconsin, so not too far from you over there in Michigan. We have quite a few placements over there as well, and I'm happy to connect you with some of those people.
Great. Another question is, can you use this to start seeds to be transferred to outside gardens as well?
That's a great question. One of my friends in Walpole is doing that, actually. She is a really
Maria!
big. Yes, Maria. I tried not to say names because I didn't get any clearance, but no, she's doing that, actually. She's having great success with it. What's really cool is you can get some plants to a maturity, a later stage of maturity, before, like you said earlier, Abby, before that raised bed garden is quite to tempt. You can start growing it in the flex farm and transplant it when ready. And we find that they are extremely robust, extremely healthy plants. Those, big, thick white roots do very well. And you're probably going to throw more produce in earlier by doing it that way. Yeah.
As a gardener and farm kid, I would also say you may want to consider also hardening off your plants that might be started in a hydroponic system if you're planning to do that transfer early in the spring. You don't want to have anyone a little bit too shocked when they're hitting 40-degree temps at night. So another
Good
question
point.
is, would you need a trellis of some sort to grow cucumbers, or are they fine as is?
If you could go back in the slides, there's a photo on slide number 15. You will see on the left picture, that is a picture of cucumbers. Towards the top at like a 45-degree angle, there's a little wooden dowel. So if you look closely at the Flex Farm when it's empty, there's a plant spot where the plant roots actually go through the panel into what's called the root chamber. And if you look, there's kind of a little dimple in that photo. It's a little bit small, but that's actually a spot for a trellis or a dowel. So you can get a regular size dowel at the hardware store, cut them to length, and trellis the whole thing. I have a couple partners growing green beans and sugar snap peas, and it gets real Jumanji style crazy in there, but it's possible, and it throws a ton of produce, and it keeps growing. You're going to have to do more training and trimming that way, but yeah, it's definitely possible.
That's awesome. That's great. We've answered all the questions that have come in through so far on the chat. So I just want to pause if there's other things that Danielle, you might want to respond to of those questions that we had Sam mostly answer, or if there are more questions attendees have, please pop them in the Q&A function, and we'll work on getting to them.
I guess I would touch on location again. I know each of us have touched on it. My experience, I was more concerned about sunlight at first, and then involving my maintenance manager in our original meeting, and he's a member of our Flex Farm team. We did have some issues with blown fuses, not so much because of the power and energy that the farm needed, but we also had 2 microwaves. And another item I had purchased with grant funding was a cooler specific to hold local farms produce. So I kept that in the cafeteria because I wanted students to have a visual of the variety of produce that we received. And I have the farms names posted on the cooler. So when all of that was going, that would blow the fuse. But we were able to, alleviate the problem very quickly and address it, and everything's, running as intended now. But it is important to really keep that awareness and check your farm every day, because the 14 hours that our light is on, I thankfully am not here 14 hours a day, but I want to make sure that it's on when I'm here in the morning, it's on when I leave in the afternoon. And sometimes, was noticing, why is the light out? That's odd. And then you wonder, did you set the timer correctly? Okay, you did. What else is it? And so, again, one of those little challenges at the beginning that you can easily solve with troubleshooting with people on your team, and now we're fine, smooth sailing,
Yeah. Thanks, Danielle. And I would say that there are a variety of community partners around the state. So in addition to, Fork Farms and the and the programming that they have with them, there are different community partners that your school may be able to contract with to also support the on-site maintenance of the gardens. I know that Green City Growers in the Boston area does a lot of work with different school districts and commercial, places of business that are doing the Fork Farms around growing places out of the Gardner-Fitchburg area. Also is utilizing these kinds of systems with different school districts, and there are many others. But just to make a plug that to grow, robust products in your school cafeteria, it's yes to have, different kinds of yield that you can add to your menu. Maybe highlight the kinds of local offerings that you're able to provide, even if it's not a full offset for the poundage that you're using on a weekly basis. It can still be a nice draw monthly. So yeah, I'll add that.
Just
I
to
don't
add
see.
something there, Abby.
Yes.
Yeah, Green City Growers is doing some really cool stuff with Boston Public Schools. If any of you want to see what they're up to, there's a cool video on YouTube. You can just type in Boston Public Schools hydroponics. You'll see Simca talking with some folks there and a nice news article. Green City Growers helped them get set up. Yeah, they are running some really cool programs with outdoor gardening too, which is not something that we do. So if you're looking to kind of fold this into a larger program, they are working with us and they know what they're doing in terms of taking care of these things. So um, definitely, you know, if you're looking to have after school or any other programs that are ongoing and you're like, I just don't want to ask anyone else, they're folks to reach out to. And one other thing that you mentioned before, it sparked an idea. Something that folks have also done with the Flex Farm is fundraising. Another cool idea is there's 288 plant spaces on here. Having the kids grow like small little tomato starts and then putting them in some sort of compostable little cup and painting them or doing something cute with them, selling them with 288 and what it would cost to grow. If you're looking to fundraise for a specific event or something, that tends to go very well, especially in spring. So there's a lot of ways to slice what it can do for you and fold it into different activities if you want.
I love that idea. I was just in a conversation this morning about a plant sale for for a school district. Um, before folks sign off, I just want to say Mass Farm to School, we are hosting our conference that is taking place March 21st and 22nd. Most of the, many of the field trips that were scheduled on the 21st are selling out. So if you haven't yet registered and booked your field trip, do so ASAP. The last day to register for the conference is this Sunday at midnight. So please get your registration in. And if you haven't yet, sign up for our newsletter. I'm delighted to hear that we've even gotten some interstate attendees on today's webinar. But we do have a monthly newsletter that we send out that alerts you to different funding opportunities like the Mass Fresh Grant and others, as well as our Harvest of the Month program and other local happenings. And I do want to say, for those of you who want to find out more information about the Fork Farms, or maybe want to touch base with Danielle about her menu cycling and how she's utilizing the international menu day throughout her month, please reach out to any of us, and our contact information is there. So we'll stay on for another 2 minutes. If you have more questions, please put them into the Q&A function. And otherwise, we'll look forward to you connecting with us over email. And really, thank you all for attending today's webinar. And thanks to our presenters for sowing such inspiration on what is in Western Massachusetts, a very gray, rainy day.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Sam. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing next, which was an idea Sam had given when he came out to meet my team, was coming up with a artisanal blend for your school to have the kids get involved in taste tests, the different types of lettuce, colors, textures, and just pick a school favorite blend, and that would become our Perkins blend. And I'm working towards that because I think that's a great idea, and it gets the kids tasting and testing. And we did something similar. We've had a Super Bowl lunch, kind of when it was Super Bowl. So we did different kinds of soups, and it was great to see the kids get so excited. So I think that Perkins Custom, Flex Farm lettuce blend will be a very similar participation level, which was high and exciting. We picked a winner at the end of the day, announced it over the intercom to everybody. So just finding different ways to really weave your Flex Farm into communications and the community, the school.
That's wonderful. I love that, Danielle. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Well, we are at time. It's 3 p.m. Again, Danielle, Sam, thank you both so much for being on today's webinar and sharing your expertise. And we look forward to hearing what's going on in your school cafeterias all around. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Abby. I appreciate it. Thanks, Danielle. It was great to hear your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you both.
Bye-bye.